Oh, please, Melinda. I bet you don't know that your husband loves me more than he loves you. If you can't deal with that, then you better leave. That statement would forever linger in my brain. My own sister uttering such nonsense. I raised my hand, and before I knew it, a slap had landed on her cheek. I pushed the whole food and drink to the floor. My husband was about to talk when I handed over the envelope to him. As he pulled out the contents, the blood drained from his face. Hotel receipts, dozens of them, printed texts, a photograph of Gracie and Collins, unmistakably intimate, taken from outside a window. His hands trembled. This, fellas, was just the beginning of the whole gist. My sister grudgingly took her purse and dashed out of the dinner. My husband could not even look me in the eye. He stood there speechless and confused, not sure whether to start begging or wait until we got home. So let's take a step back. My sister had always been this way, ever since we became teenagers. Whatever I had, she wanted. Whatever I built, she circled. Whatever I loved, she studied and eventually reached for. It was not something that started overnight. It was a pattern, a long, slow, deliberate pattern that I spent too many years of my life refusing to call what it was. Two times, two separate times, my sister went behind my back and spoke to my boyfriends, whispered things into their ears, fed them lies and half truths and whatever poison it took to make them pull away from me. And two separate times, I watched good men go cold on me for reasons I could not understand. I was young. I kept telling myself it was coincidence. I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt that a big sister should give. But deep down, I always knew. Then we both went off to university, and I didn't see her for years. Genuinely didn't see her, and I exhaled. For the first time in my life, I exhaled. I studied. I worked. I became the woman I had always wanted to be without someone standing over my shoulder wanting to be her too. Those years were mine. They were the first years that were completely, fully mine. And then, one faithful day, my sister showed up at my door. She was all smiles and warm eyes and open arms, excited and happy, as if she had missed me more than anything in the world, as if years had not passed, as if she had not done what she had done. I really should have known better. I had finally found the best man for me. Collins had proposed, and just last week I had made the announcement to my mother, and I was so certain she had called my sister the moment we hung up to give her the news. That is how it always worked with us. My mother meant no harm. She had no idea. She just loved her daughters equally, and she thought good news should be shared. But I opened the door anyway. I smiled. I pulled my sister inside and showed her my home and poured her a drink and let her back into my life because she was my blood and because I wanted to be the kind of woman who believed in second chances and because part of me, the most foolish part of me, had missed her. At first, it started with just conversation. She had always been good at conversation. She could pull anyone in, make anyone feel seen, make anyone laugh. She turned that gift on Collins, and I told myself it was harmless. She was just being Gracie. She was just happy and talkative and settling in. Then it graduated. She started asking to follow Collins for grocery shopping. Just casually, just, oh, I need a few things, and you're already going out. Do you mind? And Collins would look at me and I would shrug because what was I supposed to say? She's my sister. She lives here. She needs groceries. And then came the gifts. Whenever Collins came home with a bag for me, chocolates, perfume, something small he had picked up because he was thinking of me, she would appear. Always right on time, always hovering, always asking, oh, what did you get? What's in the bag? Oh, Collins, did you remember the thing I like? And somehow the thing she liked always ended up in her hands before I had even touched my own gift. That should have been the highest warning for me. That should have been the moment I picked up the phone and called someone and said, do you see what I see? But I still wanted to believe she had changed. I still wanted to hold on to the version of my sister I had invented, the one who had grown up, who had left all of that behind, who deserved the grace I was extending her. And then my husband changed. It was not dramatic. It was not sudden. It crept in the way cold air creeps under a door, slowly, quietly, until one day you realize the room is freezing and you have no idea when it happened. He became distant, distracted. He stopped reaching for me in the mornings. He started having reasons to go out alone. And whenever I brought up Gracie, whenever I said, "Does it not feel strange to you? Does something not feel off?" he would wave it away. "You're overreacting, Mel. She's your sister. Why are you making this weird? You always do this when you're stressed." Over and over and over until I started to believe him, until I started to wonder if the problem was me, my history with her, my old wounds, my inability to let the past stay in the past. I questioned myself more than I questioned either of them. That is the part that still makes my stomach turn when I think about it. And then came the night that changed everything. I had gotten home from work without telling either of them. A meeting had been canceled last minute, and I decided I would surprise Collins, spend some alone time with him, try to find my way back to him. As soon as I stepped into the house, she was coming out of our bathroom, my bathroom, the master bathroom at the end of the hall, the one attached to the bedroom Collins and I shared. She was all wet, dripping, from head to toe, wrapped in my towel, her hair soaking. She was shocked to see me. I saw it, a flash of panic in her eyes, there and gone in half a second, and then the performance kicked in. She said the water in her room had stopped. She had just needed a quick shower. She was so sorry she hoped I didn't mind. I smiled. I said, of course I didn't mind. I said I'd have the pipes checked in the morning, and inside, something that had been wound very tight for a very long time finally went quiet. Not angry, not devastated, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when you stop pretending and start planning. The next morning, I made a call. I did not confront anyone. I did not cry into my pillow. I did not ask Collins to look me in the eye. I hired a private investigator, gave him everything he needed, and I told him to build me a case so complete that when I laid it on the table, there would be nothing left to argue about. 1 month. He gave me 31 days of documentation, 11 hotel stays, 46 messages Gracie had sent from the number she thought I didn't know about. 3 dinners Collins had charged to our joint account as client entertainment, and 1 photograph taken from outside a window that I will never fully describe to anyone. Some things you carry alone. I booked the table at Mason Ridge for 3. Saturday evening, corner booth by the window. I put on my midnight blue gown and I drove myself there. And I smiled the whole way. Gracie was gone from my house before sunrise. I had already had the locks changed the night before, called my locksmith from the restaurant car park while the valet was bringing my car around. By the time she got back to pack her things, her key did not work. She had to knock on the door of the house I owned and wait for me to let her in. I let her in. I even made tea. I sat at my kitchen table and I watched her move through the guest room, throwing her things into bags with trembling hands, not making eye contact, not saying anything because she knew there was nothing left to say. She had used her last words well the night before. Your husband loves me more than he loves you. She had chosen those words deliberately, wanting to wound me, wanting to feel powerful. And now she was standing in my kitchen stuffing her shoes into a bin bag. I gave her 72 hours to clear her things from the apartment on Whitmore Drive, the apartment I had been paying for every month without complaint for 3 years. After that, I called the building management and had everything she left behind put into storage under her name. I sent her the storage unit details by text. One text, no punctuation, no sign off, nothing personal. The monthly allowance stopped at midnight on the night of the dinner. Her bank account would have shown it the next morning, a standing order that had run like clockwork every first of the month, canceled without ceremony or explanation, just gone. I imagine she refreshed her banking app more than once. Collins was a different matter. Collins was not a matter of locks and canceled allowances. Collins was a matter of paperwork. My attorney's name is Vivian Hartley. She is small and sharp, and she has never lost a case that mattered. I called her the week after I hired the private investigator, before I even had the full file, because I wanted everything in position before I moved a single piece. Vivian had already reviewed the prenuptial agreement. She had already noted the fidelity clause. She had already drafted the preliminary filing. By the time Collins was standing in our bedroom the morning after the dinner, looking like a man who had not slept and did not know what to do with his hands, Vivian had already submitted the documents. The fidelity clause was clear. What he came into the marriage with was what he would leave with. The business interests we had built together, mine. The property in both our names, mine. The investment accounts that had grown on the back of my income and my decisions and my long hours, mine. He had signed that agreement on a Tuesday afternoon 4 years ago and called it a formality. He had laughed about it, actually, told his friend it was just something Mel needed for peace of mind. I hope he thought about that laugh often in the weeks that followed. But the piece of the revenge that I savored most, the piece I had planned with the most care and the most patience, was not the divorce filing. It was not the locks or the allowance or the eviction notice. It was what I had sent before I even arrived at the restaurant. 3 hours before I walked through the doors of Mason Ridge, I had sent a message to every person in our family group chat: my mother, my aunts, my cousins, Gracie's closest friends who had become part of our extended circle. And this part I had thought about for a long time before deciding. I sent a separate private message to Dr. Philippa Marsh. Dr. Philippa Marsh, who had mentored Gracie personally throughout her postgraduate degree, who had written her recommendation letters, who had called in a favor to get Gracie her first real position at Hartwell and Associates, who had, on more than one occasion, told anyone who would listen that Gracie was the most promising young woman she had ever supervised. Dr. Marsh was a woman of enormous integrity. I knew she would want to know that the man Gracie had been conducting a 6-month affair with was the husband of the woman who had funded Gracie's entire career. Tuition, rent, wardrobe, first car, monthly stipend, for the better part of a decade. I attached the relevant documentation. I kept the message factual and brief. I did not editorialize. I did not need to. By the time Gracie sat down at that restaurant table and made the mistake of opening her mouth, her phone had already been buzzing for 3 hours. She slap after the table. After she snatched slap after the table. After she snatched her purse and walked out of the restaurant trying to look like she still had somewhere to go. I know because I was watching from the car. I sat in the car park for 11 minutes, and through the window I saw her standing on the pavement outside, pulling out her phone, and then going absolutely still. Message after message, her mother, her aunt, 3 cousins, 2 friends, and one very formal, very measured note from Dr. Philippa Marsh, informing Gracie that her conduct had been brought to her attention and that they would need to have a conversation about her continued role at Hartwell and Associates. I watched her read it. I watched her shoulders drop. Then I started the engine and I drove home. The apartment was quiet when I got in, wonderfully, completely quiet. I poured myself a glass of wine, the good one, the bottle I had been saving, and I sat in my living room in my midnight blue gown, and I let the silence settle around me like something earned. My phone buzzed. Mama, I let it ring. It buzzed again. I set it face down on the coffee table. I sat with my wine in the quiet and the knowledge that every single thing I had built was still mine: my house, my business, my name, my peace. Gracie had 2 suitcases and a storage unit and a meeting with Dr. Marsh on Monday morning. Collins had Vivian Hartley's letter arriving in his inbox at 9 a.m., and I had a Sunday entirely to myself. People always ask, "Don't you feel anything? Don't you feel sad? Don't you feel betrayed?" Of course I do. I am not made of stone. There was a version of this story where I fell apart completely, where I sat on the bathroom floor and cried until I couldn't breathe. There were nights in that 1 month while the PI was working when I lay next to Collins and stared at the ceiling and felt something so enormous and shapeless inside me that I could not name it. But I had learned something important from the first boyfriend and the second, and every year I spent watching my sister look at my life the way a person looks at something they intend to take. I had learned that falling apart is a luxury I could not afford until the work was done. So I waited. I planned. I smiled at dinner and asked how everyone's day had been and passed the salt and acted like a woman who had no idea. And when the time came, I laid it all on the table. Literally. My sister wanted what I had. She always had. And for a little while, a brief, reckless little while, she thought she had taken it. But she forgot something fundamental about me. I don't just build things, I protect them. That statement will forever linger in my brain. Your husband loves me more than he loves you. Let it linger, Gracie. Let it linger in that storage unit, in that meeting with Dr. Marsh. In every morning you wake up and check a bank account that no longer has my name attached to it. Let it linger. I'm going to be just fine. End. I don't just build things, I protect them.